recording. So we are recording now. And there's Stacy. Welcome, all of you guys. This course is a fabulous one. But I'm going to tell you right now, you are going to walk away wanting more than what we're able to do in 7 weeks. Because these areas of psychopathology, these are the people that we work with for sometimes years, helping them to learn about themselves, helping them to heal. Can also be one of the more discouraging areas. And I'm sure you've talked about addictions being that can be a kind of discouraging area. This can be as well, because people will often just drop out of therapy without giving you any reason and not respond to your efforts to bring them back in. But balanced out against that is the absolute joy of seeing someone who has been not just paralyzed, but their whole life has been messed up by the psychopathology, and to see that begin to heal and for them to be able to engage in relationships and make good choices for themselves and think differently. And honor their feelings without vomiting them all over everybody. To be able to walk alongside people as they do that, it's an amazing gift. And so that's a lot of what we're going to be talking about in this 7 weeks is some of the more difficult cases and how we handle them. And I have posted under the professor's area, and I will post a video there too. I just haven't gotten it finished yet. I've been working on it and between trying to get it off of Zoom and onto YouTube, it's taking a while, but I'll get that posted for you by tomorrow. But on that, under that professor's area, I posted a couple of webcasts or podcasts by one of my absolute heroes in this work, and that is Diane Langberg. I have followed Diane for 30 years and continue to be humbled and impressed and taught by what she shares about her walking alongside people. She has also done, so the 2 podcasts that I post are called Reflections from Lessons Learned in the Therapist's Chair. And if you've been in one of my classes before, you may have seen this post already. To me, it's worth listening to more than once. It's something that I keep kind of tabbed, and so that when it's been a rough week, I can go back and I can listen to what she says and refocus. She has also written a devotional book called In Our Lives First, and it's written for therapists. So I wanted tonight, as we begin, to just share with you a little bit of one of the things that Diane has written. She says about this: counseling, a dangerous profession. Wonder how many of us who are involved in counseling think of ourselves as engaging in a dangerous profession. After all, I'm sitting in a nice chair inside a nice office talking to people. How could that be dangerous? There are an interesting couple of verses in Ecclesiastes 10. Whoever digs a pit may fall into it. Whoever breaks through a wall may be bitten by a snake. Whoever quarries stones may be injured by them. Whoever splits logs may be endangered by them. That's verses 8 and 9. in that 10th chapter of Ecclesiastes. She goes on to say, these words seem to suggest that there are dangers connected with our work and our lives, of which it would be well for us to be aware. If whoever quarries stones may be injured by them, then what of the person who quarries sin and sorrow? If pits, walls, stones, and logs are dangerous, then how much more dangerous are abuse, addiction, rage, fear, and grief? What sorts of dangers am I talking about? Have you ever heard someone's story and wondered whether or not God is good? Or maybe you've even wondered if he is. When we sit with lives broken by others, lives full of abuse, victimization, oppression, and injustice, who of us has not questioned the goodness, the faithfulness, and the wisdom of God? And she identifies three dangers. She says, slander. I believe one of the dangers inherent in our quarrying is that it can lead us to slander the character of God. We begin to define him according to the things we hear from others, rather than according to the things we hear from him. We begin to see God through the lens of sin and sorrow, rather than viewing sin and sorrow through the lens of his character. It goes on to talk about erosion of faith. Not only can our work lead us to slander God, it can easily also lead to an erosion of faith. The great majority of us who enter the profession of counseling do so optimistically. We believe that help exists, that there is hope of change, and that we can help bring those things about in the lives of others. We encounter difficult cases, maybe even cases others have given up on, and believe we can make a difference. We ride emotional roller coasters, pull others back from the brink of suicide, go one more round of rehab, and begin to doubt that change will come. And sometimes, in some lives, change does not come. Our faith wavers. Where is this God who redeems? Why has this person not seen or heard God and been changed? Perhaps even more devastating to faith are those who refuse all help and defiantly continue lying, seducing, or abusing others. Ravaging wolves are loose, destroying others, seemingly untouched and unrestrained. Where is God? As Amy Carmichael says, there are things done in the world today would root up faith, but for Gethsemane. One of the dangers of the work we do is its capacity to root up faith. And then the final danger inherent in the work that we do is the fact that sin is contagious. Spend 5 minutes with a group of critical people and you'll prove my point. Those who work with infectious diseases must keep in mind the fact that they can catch the disease they are trying to cure or ease if they are not careful. This principle is not limited to the physical realm. The roots of those sins we find abhorrent in others lie within us as well. If we're not aware of this, then we have fallen into deception and foolishness. And if we do not catch the disease with which we are working, then how supremely easy to become infected with pride and self-righteousness instead. Let us not fool ourselves and think that functioning in a professional sphere will with certain degrees, protects us from danger. It is when we think ourselves safe that we are, in fact, in the greatest danger. May we stay vigilant, dwelling in the shelter of the Most High, for it is He who delivers you from the snare of the evil one and from the deadly disease. It's from Psalm 91. So, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I think sometimes we kind of need a reality check. So what are your thoughts about what Diane has written? You can just jump in. You don't have to
it offers a different perspective than, you know, being a student, but at the point of giving some clarity to some thought process.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
I asked myself early on, would I be able to, sit with people who were very upset and hear one problem after the next after the next? Is that how I wanted to, spend my time, a career of listening to that? And obviously I came up with, yes, I do.
That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought particularly true was her statement of when we are not vigilant or diligent and we think we're safe, that's when we're in the most danger. I think that's really true.
Mhm.
So coming into this field with those things that you just read, having an awareness and an understanding, knowing that that's going to be the case, and we do have to be intentional about caring for our own emotional, spiritual lives, and all those things. I think
That's so
that was
important.
valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, so important. Now,
Yes.
I've been doing this for over 30 years, and the people that I have seen fall are the ones who were lone wolfing it. So your partner phone calls each week, the networking that we encourage you to do, the building community that we encourage you to do, and then reaching out into your own communities, your own counseling communities, and building some of those relationships within that counseling community, wherever you live. Those are going to be some of your best safeguards. And somebody else started to talk.
Sorry,
Oh, go
I'm
ahead, Lloyd.
Aaliyah. I was just going to share that that's something that I think I've just become made so aware in this program is that in the Garden of Eden, like in perfection, God was with us, but also said it's not good for us to be alone. And so just recognizing our need for people. And as we read through like theories of counseling or last course with like skills and techniques, like recognizing the aspect of like humility, that we are
Yeah.
lifelong learners and we're going to need supervision even after we meet all of our supervision hours, because that's how God designed us, to need people and need accountability and need safe places to confess. And so, yeah, I just love that she brought up this like sober mindedness to this
Yep.
career path and this vocation.
I still get supervision after all this time. I'm a part of 3 networking groups here in Indianapolis. And then I have a group of 3 other counselors that I meet with regularly besides my own therapist. And to just bounce things off of, give me that feedback, keep my head on straight. I do a lot of work with abuse survivors, and it can get you can sometimes get to believe in your own press, that, okay, I'm making a difference in this person's life. And there is a part of that that's true. John would jump all over me for belittling the work that I do. But there is also the part of that I need to be reminded I am not the one who is doing this. I am a tool that is being used to help these folks. And so I need to not ever lose sight of who the real counselor is in those rooms. So, other thoughts you have?
I just want to say, I think it's incredibly significant that she starts by talking about the idea of counseling as a dangerous profession, not of course in the not in a physical sense by any means, but in, no matter how, jaded or well adapted or whatever you believe you are, I do firmly believe that if you meet with people and if you work as a counselor for long enough, eventually you are going to run into that one client, that one story that really rocks you to your core. And I do think that is something that people need to be prepared for when that does happen, and having the support to be able to deal with that.
Yeah, so important, Chris. That, I let you all know that I was gone last week, and leading up to that, was going through a season when I was talking with my group and realizing I have never been as close to burnout as I have been in this past 6 months. And I know that it's the burden of telehealth. It's trying to keep my clients working in healthy ways without being able to see them face to face, and just and all of the other things, the people dying. We haven't gone through a single week that somebody we know has not died, and sometimes more than one person in a week. But we can't have memorial services. We're hopefully that's gonna change pretty soon. But if I did not have these safeguards in place, um, um, this this season might have done me in. It's not going to, because I do have the safeguards in place. But again, are y'all aware that people who do not have good self-care as therapists typically last 2 to 3 years in the profession? So if you want to be in it for the long haul, this has got to be something that you do, and don't wait till you get out in the field to start it. Start it now when you're experiencing the pressures of getting assignments in and doing reading and all of that kind of thing. Build in some of those safe care, even if it's just taking a 15-minute mini vacation in your head, and listening to some music or reading a book or going for a walk. Start building some things in like that. They don't have to be big. I do this every day. Every day I walk for an hour. Every day I read scripture for an hour. Typically those are self-defeating goals. But if you learn to take advantage of the moments, in between your sessions, get up and take a walk down the hallway. Just walk out down the hallway. If you can get outside, walk outside for a minute and then come back, because it resets your brain, and it resets your body. So something as simple as that, keeping stress balls in your office and taking a few minutes to squeeze stress balls. I have what we call poppy thingies in my office. I should bring one over. I should go over to the office and grab one and bring it over. That when you squeeze them, their eyes pop out. My clients love them. They'll come in and they'll grab a poppy thingy and they'll sit there and they'll squeeze the poppy thingy as they're talking to me. So look for and think about things like that you can kind of put around you. I have kaleidoscopes in my office. My counseling service is called Kaleidoscope. And so I have all kinds of kaleidoscopes, and I can just grab one of my kaleidoscopes and look at all the beauty in that. And so can my clients. They know that they're welcome to pick one up and play with it, take a look at it. But self-care, self-care, self-care. You will get so sick and tired of me and probably other people saying that, but we are going to emphasize that. So I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint. Questions, thoughts? Did we catch everybody that had something you wanted to say? I don't want to shut anybody down.
And I don't know if this was what she was talking about with the walls and the stones, but what came to my mind was the walls that I had put up over the years that had to go down, and
Yeah.
what's on the other side of the wall. And you know, what effect what's on the other side of the wall would have as they're coming down on not only me but the people around me,
Yeah.
and just that emotional,
That's a great point.
oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what you would call it, but it just being exposed. And if a person's not prepared for it, the counselor or the client's not prepared for it, just, you know,
Wow.
that, you know, taking you by surprise. And, you know, it just, I thought about all of those in reference to different emotional issues. The stones, you know, digging up
Mhm.
stones, digging up hard things of the past. And it really helped that scripture come to life for me. I
Yeah.
think it's more than anything to look at it, to look at the dangers of those walls and of the stones, and of whether it's as a friend just talking to them or as a counselor digging up
Yeah.
this stuff that, wow, there's stuff there that, be careful.
Be very careful.
That
Yeah.
I love that. I love the scripture, seeing it that way, and it just brought it to life.
Yeah. Great observation. You know, and skills and techniques, you probably talked about defense mechanisms. And one of the things that we want to be really cautious about is tearing down our clients' defense mechanisms before they have the resiliency. We want them to give them up or change them, because a lot of times defense mechanisms have a purpose, and it's not always a bad purpose. But we want the client to be able to see how that can be altered, and how they can begin something that maybe protected them and protected them well, but now has maybe become a hindrance, can become a resource again. So we're going to be talking a lot about diagnosis too in this class. And one of the things that you're going to watch for as you are diagnosing, and as you are working with your clients, is how resilient is your client? How able are they to be in the presence of reality and strong emotion? And sometimes, as you gauge where a client is, you're going to back off some, and help them to build more resiliency in. And you're going to do that with some experience near opportunities, and especially with mismatching experiences, you're going to do that. So now I've kind of chatted quite a bit. I want to hear from you. Want to hear your name, your location, what year you are in the program, and is there a favorite podcast or YouTube or training that you have listened to, or class that you've taken this year, that you would recommend to other people? So now I'm gonna stop this share, and I'll come back to the PowerPoint in a minute. But who wants to start? First of all, do you guys know each other? Are you all in the same cohort? Okay, but that puts you one up on me.
I've never met Matthew, I don't think.
Hi, Matthew.
But I think I know.
So I guess I can start since
well, all right, new guy.
Oh, wait. I interrupt somebody, I'll mute. Sorry.
Nope, you're fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got put in this class because I don't really have a cohort. They tried to keep me with the group that I went to kick off with, but I came over from Argosy University, and if anybody knows the story there, it was a for-profit school that did a lot of mental health graduate stuff. I was in their PsyD program. And as a for-profit company, they had a sleazy parent company that owned them that fleeced the company, and they went bankrupt in March of 2019. And I showed up and all the doors were locked. I and all the other students. I'm not like the only person who went through
Yeah.
that. So I transferred over here. Gave up on the doctoral degree stuff because I didn't think I had it in me to finish somewhere else, because doctoral level work is, I mean, it's all consuming. It's your whole darn life.
Yeah.
So came over here, can do the same work with the same populations. I just don't get paid enough because I don't have fancy letters after my name. And so I came in with a bunch of classes, and so they've bounced me all over the place.
Okay. Kind of
That's where
fitting
nobody
things
knows
in.
me. I live in Utah, 2 grown kids, one who's going to have a master's degree in computer science before I will. Before I'll have my master's here. Daughter out in Hawaii, living life, and it's basically just me and my 4 rescue cats. So if you see a black cat walk across the screen, he's one of many. They're all boys for some reason. I don't know why. But.
And they visit us, huh?
All right.
We occasionally get cats, dogs, and kids visiting us. It's okay. As long as we're not talking it with the kids, as long as we're not talking about something that probably they shouldn't be hearing. And that's a possibility in this class. So you will want to watch your children and guard them. So thanks, Matthew. And we're glad you're here with us. So how much longer until you are able to finish up the program here?
I don't know, as horrible as that sounds. I don't keep track of my grad plan, but I think it's, okay. I want to say next fall, but
okay.
That might, yeah, I might be jumping the gun there. I might be here for another 1.5 years.
Well, I know it's hard on the pocketbook. And doing the work is hard, but the reward is good. It really is. And now we have a PhD program. Cool.
Yeah, I'll be passing on that. That's just too. It's so much work. If anybody's gonna go do that, just be prepared. It's this people complain about the workload in this program, and I mean, I try not to snicker, but at the same time, I recognize that, you know, this is a graduate program. If you haven't been exposed to a doctoral level program, you don't understand. But it's at the doctoral level, it's not about finishing all the work, because you can't. It's about figuring out what you need to do to pass a class. And it sounds like a horrible way to learn, and I thought it was, but that was my experience.
Yeah.
Here, at least you can do everything you're asked to do, so that's kind of nice.
I have a friend who just completed his doctorate. He started it 15 years ago and had all of his coursework in, everything but his dissertation. Took a job with a university that was a demanding job. And so the organization where he was getting his doctorate worked with him and gave him that extra time to complete his dissertation. So he defended it last Monday and found out Friday that he had been awarded his doctorate. So reason to celebrate, but persistence and time, and you know, there certainly were times when he wanted to give up, you know. And I'm sure you guys are finding that there are times when you wonder, what have I gotten myself into? Why did I ever think I could do this or would do this? But the end comes, and your hard work pays off. Because I supervise practicums and internships as well. And at first it surprised me, but it shouldn't, how many of our students are offered jobs through their practicums or their internships, especially their internships, because of the caliber of work that they're able to do with clients. I know I'm tooting our own horn, but this is a tough program. But you are getting solid, usable skills that are marketable. So I think that's always important. All right, who's going next?
I
I'll
can go
go.
next.
Okay,
Go ahead, Miss Peggy. Go ahead,
Go,
Peggy.
No,
Peggy.
go ahead. I don't know who that was. No, you go ahead, Stacy. Go for it.
Okay, I'm Stacy Harrop, and I live in Louisville, Kentucky. And let's see, I like podcasts. One that I've really loved, that I've listened to a couple of different times, is the Restoration of the Heart podcast. Who Wild at Heart has Dan Allender and John Eldridge. That is a phenomenal one. And then a new one I've just started listening to is the Presence and Practice. It has a lot of Dallas Willard stuff on there, and breath prayer, and a lot of kind of neat things. And I've really started enjoying those. So those are the two that I would offer for suggestions for you guys.
All right.
And I'm first year.
First year. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, welcome. Now, Peggy, go ahead.
Okay, so I know everybody here except for Matthew. So Matthew, it's nice to meet you. And for the others, good to see you again after a week vacation or being off or not doing any papers. Wonderful. Let's see, a podcast. I've been a fan of Brene Brown for a few years now, and have enjoyed her podcasts and her books. And so that is something I would recommend to some, but there's a lot of them. I'm bad to spend too much time on stuff like that. So anyway, that and reading labels. But anyway, I'm in Tennessee right now. I'm in the path of the hurricane. So I don't think the weather's supposed to get really bad, but we may get some flood. I live with two of my adult children currently. We are all three in school, and I have my daughter that's also working on a master's degree, and my son is finishing up his bachelor's degree.
Whoa.
So this house gets crazy sometimes.
Got a house full of studiers.
Oh, it's bad sometimes, you know. It's bad.
I can imagine as deadlines approach that, that it could get a little tense.
It does. It does. It gets, you know, you can walk into a room and just by the look of somebody's face know that they've got a deadline that they're struggling with.
Wow.
I can't believe it. I've got 2 more hours.
Yeah.
But then the relief. Oh, I got it.
It's done.
Yeah. So there's just a constant flow of that in the house, and it gets crazy. But that's kind of, you know, what it is. And so, you know, that's what. Did you want anything else? It's
Thank you. No, that was it. You told us who you are, where you're from, and talk to us a little bit about favorite podcasts.
Right.
All right. So who's going to go next?
My name's Scott. Everybody knows me in this group except for Matthew. Hello, Matthew. Nice to meet you. Nice to see everybody else. I'm in Palm Desert, California. This cohort, I believe, is first year and quickly approaching graduation. I knew you'd like that, Gunny. My favorite YouTube channel right now is Green Renaissance. Check that out. Really encouraging.
Okay.
Green Renaissance.
Green Renaissance, huh? Okay. Thanks, Scott. All right.
My name is Leah Morfitt. It looks like it's Leah, but it's Leah.
Leah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm in Austin, Texas, and this is my first year. And in terms of a podcast that I would like to offer up is a podcast called The Place We Find Ourselves. It's run by 2 Christian counselors. Well, one major Christian counselor, his name's Adam Young in Colorado, but he just does an incredible job explaining stuff on attachment and how God's like work through our story, and especially with trauma and abuse, and just has some incredible people that come in and speak on his podcast and shares a lot of resources. So yeah.
Okay. Lots of wonderful resources out there. People
I'll
people
dive
giving
in
their
there
time.
next.
Go ahead, Gunny.
All right, so first name's Johnny, but I can go by Gunny, and you can call me anything, but just don't call me late for dinner. But first year with everybody else, same cohort, and welcome aboard, Matthew. It's good to have you here. It's a good group that you're going to be with here. When it comes to podcast or anything, I always default to Amy Cuddy. It's a TED Talk, and she's got one that it's fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
And it's not really what it sounds like, but it's very inspiring because it's something that'll get you to think about, well, if I can't do it, I'm gonna keep trying until I actually get it done. So it's a good TED Talk. It's inspiring. But I also watched the two that you posted earlier, and that one really had me thinking, and it really inspired me as well. So I might have a new one.
But she has a number of others on her website that are equally good. She does a lot with trauma and sexual survivors, and also religious abuse. So she has some really good stuff.
Good to know. And I am here in Lake Forest, California.
All right.
Did you say Lakeport? I'm sorry.
Lake Forest.
Oh, Lake Forest. Okay.
Yeah.
I have family from Lakeport. That's why I asked.
Suppose I'll hop in next. I am Chris. I am first year, same cohort, blah, 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 everything everyone else said.
Okay.
I am from Minnesota, Bram, Minnesota specifically, which is a small little town in kind of the middle of nowhere. And I am not really a podcast or YouTube type of person. So I guess I don't really know if I have any good
That's okay.
suggestions for everyone else here. So sorry about that. Dropped the ball.
No, you didn't. Books, readers, are you a reader or?
This is going to sound kind of facetious, but the majority of my knowledge comes from I work at a therapist's office. I'm the office manager at one.
Okay.
So
You do a lot
literally
of
everyone I
hands-on.
know has at least a master's degree. So I spend a lot of time just kind of immersed in this. So I
Good
get a
for
lot
you.
of experiential knowledge, I suppose.
That's great. That's a good situation to be in. So, all right. We're narrowing it down.
I can go.
Okay, Steve.
Hi, Mary. My name is Steven, and I am in Richland, Pasco, Tri-Cities, Washington. So it's 3 cities that are kind of all together.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, so the podcast I've been listening to the most recently is Phil Vischer's The Holy Post. And so it isn't like therapy or counseling specific, but it's a great kind of take from my perspective of like a Christian's view on current events and current social issues.
Okay.
And he'd made VeggieTales, so that makes him awesome. So
there you go.
But it's good. I mean, they tackle some like pretty hard subjects, and yeah, anyway, that's been good.
Okay, good. Yeah. And podcasts, YouTube channels, things like that, those you don't have to always be doing study or growth kinds of things. Podcasts can also be a great way to get some relaxation time in. These all sound like great suggestions. But being able to listen to a half-hour podcast, a 15-minute podcast, a comedian, an enlightenment, those are all good things to tuck into your self-care basket. But thank you all. I am so looking forward to getting to know more about you, to working with you, and to jumping into this this material with you. So let's kind of take a look at some of this.
April didn't go yet.
Oh, April, that's right. You came
And
back
she's
in.
not, and she's not getting off the hook.
No, come on, April.
Go,
I'm
April.
April Huey. I live in Georgia, Peachtree City, Georgia. I'm in, the first year with all of these people.
Okay.
And I probably the podcast that I listen to the most is Bethel Redding's podcast with Bill Johnson, Chris Valentin. I don't know if you know those people, but they're my heroes.
All right.
They love Jesus. So, so I listened to that, and there's a really cool book that I cannot remember the name of right now that I'm in the middle of, which is awesome as well. It's a blue book. It has a brain on the front of it. I don't know. Anyways, it's really good. When I remember it, I'll pipe back in.
Yeah, that's
So.
fine. Share it when you can. Share it when you get a chance. I want to encourage you guys as we go along. If you hook up with resources, if you find something that is especially interesting, please share that. Typically what I do is create a resources file under course resources, so that you can go in and just add things as you want to add them or as you find them. That's one of the best ways for us to be resourced and networked is to share what we find with other people. So I, of course, watch or listen to a lot of Henry Cloud and John Townsend podcasts, among others. I don't have time to listen to all of the podcasts that I would like to listen to, or to watch all of the YouTubes, or to take all of the classes that I would like to take. I take a lot of continuing education classes through PESI, and they always have way more classes than I can afford to take, and secondly, than I have time to take. So, but they have good stuff. To take it till you make it there. I see Jenny has posted a website or a podcast site for us. And if anybody else wants to jump in the chat and put one in, you're welcome. More than one, you're welcome to. All right, let's come back to this PowerPoint. As we go through this, the 7 weeks, I want us to kind of begin to build some foundational pieces that no matter who your client is and no matter who you're working for, there are some things that you always come back to. One of those is our equation that grace, truth, and time equals growth. And people may need that in different amounts at different times. But that's the formula that we know works in people's lives. For us to come alongside them with attuning and with grace and with hearing them, being willing to see things from their side of the fence, their perspective, and coming alongside that with truth, as they are, as that. Actually, what we want them to do is to be able to recognize truth themselves. But we are sometimes choosing interventions and techniques that will help them with an increased self-awareness, an increased mentalization, the ability to live in reality, and all of those things together with time, and we do not have control over the time. You know, often when we work with managed care, we may have 7 or 8 sessions, and they say that's all you can have. So what we look at is, okay, so what can I do? How can I help this client in 7 to 8 sessions? What can I give them that they can take with them and continue to work on it? Other clients, I have clients that I've worked with for 5 years or more. Depending on the depth of their trauma, and you know, sometimes it takes. I have one client that I'm working with right now that we're in year 2. We are still working on building trust and attuning because she was so traumatized from such an early age, and so, you know, almost every week, if I see her in the office, and she's one of the clients that I do see in the office. Most of my clients I'm still seeing on telehealth, but she's one of the clients that I do see in the office. And almost every week we have to do grounding. We have to talk about, because she'll hear someone walking down the hallway and she will startle. And so we have to stop and we have to talk about, okay, someone is walking down the hallway from their office to the bathroom. There is no threat to you there. Nobody can get in this office. The door is locked. You can get out anytime you want, but nobody else can get in. Nobody can get in unless we let them in. And so, you know, we will sometimes as many as 10, 15 times a session. We will go through that because she hears a phone ring or she hears somebody talking in the hallway or walking down the hallway. And so she's getting much better. When I first started seeing her, she would not speak a word in therapy session. And so we've worked on things to help her express herself without having to talk first. And now she's getting to the place where she's using her voice. But it has been a long, hard haul for her and for me to get to that place. So, you know, one of the things that she's asked over and over and over again is, are you going to give up on me? Are you going to get frustrated and say, I can't come anymore? And so what we do is we go back to this formula, you know, and I say to her, you know, my role is to come alongside you with grace, but also to always tell you the truth. So if I tell you something, it doesn't matter how many times you ask me, the answer will be the same, because I'm not going to change my answer for things that are true for you. You know, for instance, she's been told that this gets me every time, being raped was her purpose. And it was her mother who told her that that's why she was created, was to provide sexual pleasure for these people, her uncle and the people who sexually abused her. And so we have, for a long time now, we've worked on me bringing that truth alongside. You know, I know what you were told, but I declare it a lie. No, it is not truth that you were created for this purpose, that this was your purpose. She's starting to take that in just a little bit, but we keep going back to this combination of grace and truth and then time, you know, and I don't promise her that I will always be there for her. That's not a promise I could make to my children, and it's not a promise I can make to my clients. I tell her that I will be here as long as God brings us together. And if something should happen that he would say it's time for us to part ways, then he will provide the person who is supposed to walk with her on the next step of her journey. And so that's all a part of integrating all of that in. And then you are probably familiar with our own character pieces or our own growth pieces of competence. It's important that we grow in skill. And it is important that we are willing to examine and have our own character examined. To be able to say to God, hold up your mirror to truth to me and show me what you see. And then to have people who will come around us as we're learning those things. A lot of times what we and our clients are afraid of is if anybody knew what I am really like, they would run as fast as they could in the opposite direction. They would not want anything to do with me. And so having a place where we can be vulnerable and also providing that safe place for our clients to dig up some of those rocks and get into some of those hard places. And then connection. We were created to be in connection with other people. And so we need that element, and our clients need that element. And one of the things that we have to guard against is that we are not providing that only safe connection for our clients. We need to be encouraging them to enter into other relationships. Will they get hurt? Yeah, sometimes they will. And so that's what we create, the safe place for them to come back and process those feelings and think about what their relational needs are, and learn about safe people and unsafe people. So our ultimate goal, of course, is for us to become licensed mental health counselors or whatever the licensure status is in your state. That's a piece of paper that hangs on the wall. It doesn't make you a counselor. What's inside of you makes you a counselor. Go ahead, Scott.
Is it appropriate to ask you about the theoretical approach and the interventions that you use with your client who's traumatized? I'm really interested in that.
Absolutely. I won't go into that in depth because we've got some other things that we need to cover tonight, but let's see. Next week is Labor Day, so we won't meet next week. We'll have week 3. Then week 4, I can offer an optional virtual class, and I would be more than happy to go more in depth in some of those things. But just to answer your question right here, Scott, I use a combination of EFT, of DBT, of Bessel van der Kolk's Body Keeps the Score and his trauma training. I'm certified trauma therapist. Peter Levine. I use CBT. I would say that there's probably nothing that I don't use at appropriate, that there's no theoretical context that I don't use at an appropriate time with a client. But the basis of it is I stay with this Townsend model of we're looking at character structure in terms of attachment, separation, integration, and adulthood. And what does that mean for them? So with every single one of the trauma clients that I've ever worked with, we've had to start with attachment. And there are different levels. If you don't have a copy of the character model printed out that has all the different levels on it, print that out, put it in a sheet protector or whatever. Keep it someplace where you have easy reference to that, because as you're assessing and diagnosing a client, that's going to become a really valuable resource for you. So we start with a lot of attachment stuff, Scott. and, you know, letting them ask me questions. They need to find out that I'm going to be trustworthy. So it's really important that I'm clear and transparent with them. Example of this is that a few years ago, I had breast cancer, and I had, of course, had to have surgery and follow-up treatment, and every single one of my clients stayed with me through that cancer diagnosis. We helped. We talked on the phone, or we meet online. Back then it was Google that we were using to meet, and touch base. But every single one of them stayed with me because of the work that we were being able to do. And they knew that I would tell them exactly what was going on, and be back as soon as I possibly could. So you build those relationships with clients. Are my clients dependent on me? Probably in some level. Those traumatized clients are dependent on me up to a certain point. But my goal is always, always, always to help them move towards separation and integration and adulthood. So I'm teaching them all the time about what's happening in terms of the dynamic between us. You know, what you've experienced here with me is something that you've been longing for. It took you time to trust me. It will take you time to trust other people. You know, and then inevitably we have to do the, I'm going to disappoint them at some stage. I'm not going to do something they think I should have done. I'm not going to be what they thought I should be. I'm not going to say what they thought I should say. And so helping them to come to a place where they can express that disappointment and feel it's safe to do that. So does that help a little bit? By the way, Pessy right now has a DBT special on. I think it leads to certification, but instead of like $600 and some dollars, it's $199. So if that's something that you're interested in, you might check that out.
So it's not premature being first-year students for that? Okay.
Not at all. No, that's just, that's stuff that you're not going to get in your coursework here, because there's just not time for it to go into that kind of depth on those kinds of things. And so any of that you can pick up otherwise is just going to be to your good. Any certifications you can get, just going to be to your good. They just count because your certifications you can take with you when you get your licensure. They don't become invalid when you get your licensure. So you become a licensed mental health counselor or an LPN or a LPC, not LPN, LPC. And you can have these different certifications. You can be crisis certified. You can be grief certified. You can be DBT certified. You can be EFT certified. Any of those credentials go with you and attach to your license. Okay. All right. So some of the nuts and bolts kind of stuff. If you attend virtual classes, you get credit. I forget, because I've been looking at so many shells, Blackboard shells this, since I got back home on Sunday. Some of the Blackboard shells say that you need to check in and say, I attended the virtual class. I typically don't have you do that. If you attended class, I took names and I just go in after class and give you the points. So that's one thing that you don't have to worry about posting. Homework partners will start week 2. I'll get those posted. Don't post those until week 2. You've probably heard this spiel from other professors because sometimes the course change, the enrollment changes, and then I have to send you upgraded or revised lists, and it can get confusing if you get 2 or 3 revised lists. So typically wait and do that week 2. Dr. Townsend's virtual class is scheduled for Tuesday, September 7th. It is an hour shorter than it's typically been. They're doing a new format. I haven't seen the new format, but they're doing a new format. And then just a reminder to keep your video on during class. Thank you for muting, but do keep your video on during class.
So Mary,
Yes.
do you know what time the Townsend class will be then?
It's still going to start at 5 o'clock, I think.
So 5 to 7 instead of 5 to 8.
Yeah, I'll double check that, Steve, before that week and just make sure. But I think that's the deal is it's going to start at the same time. It's just going to end earlier. For those of us in the Eastern time zone, that's not a bad thing. Heading to bed before midnight, not a bad thing. One of the sections that's new in the textbook that you got this time is a section on counseling in a culturally diverse society. We are becoming more and more aware of how culture impacts us and our culture as well as our clients' culture. And that's not limited just to ethnicity. Ethnicity is a part of that, but there is so much more. Anybody who's moved from the north to the south knows that there is a cultural change. Anybody who's moved from Indiana to California knows that there is a culture difference. And so what are some of the things that this is chapter 2, I think, in this book, in this edition of the book, and it wasn't in the old book at all. But what are some of the things that we need to be aware of culturally? And we'll be talking about this more, but this is new in this particular book. Let's see. We're going to come back and do that in just a minute because I'm watching the time. Okay, real quick syllabus review because I think you guys can read your syllabus, but always cognizant of the mission statement and the competence plus character model. We are working to grow not just in skills, but we are working to grow in our own personal growth. We did that. Dr. Townsend's learning activity is in his shell and Blackboard. It's over on the left side of your Blackboard. And that will be where you will post your feedback from his virtual classroom. Read assignments carefully. We try to read them carefully and double check them. What did I do? But sometimes we miss things. So don't be shy at all about giving me a heads up and saying, is this what you guys really meant to say on this assignment? Or this part doesn't match this part. I try to go ahead of you and read week by week, I try to do again a check, but I don't always catch everything. So if you see something that looks kind of quirky, give me a shout out. And week 3, your final project for this class is to do a treatment plan using a fictional or a historical figure. So you might want to begin thinking about who you might want to do. It needs to be somebody that you have enough information on to write a case study, and then to be able to develop a treatment plan for that person. Homework partners, critical, always critical. I think this is one of the most important things that we do. Just a reminder, because sometimes people are not aware of it, that the feedback piece of your discussion post is important. If the feedback pieces aren't there, those are worth 5 points apiece. So if you lose 10 points on an assignment because you didn't do the feedback, that's a significant, has a significant weight on your grade points. You're always going to do APA format. I say that knowing that because we are doing case treatment plans and case studies, there will be times when you will need to do a modified APA format. So you'll do the cover sheet, you'll do the resources page, but the interior part of it may look different. It may be sections, it may be bullet points, depending on what the case, what you're being asked to do in the case study. But again, we can always touch base about that. I don't want anybody to feel lost. I try to be as available to you as I can. We have good writing resources at CUI. In the Writing Center, they will help you. And then Grammarly is a free tool as well. One of the things that we're going to be looking at and talking a lot about in this course is using clinical language. Third-party payers don't care squat about what your opinion is or what you think. What they want to see is that you have documented a symptom and that symptom matches up to the criteria of whatever you're diagnosing in DSM-5. You may get feedback from me about using clinical language. Late assignments, you guys are familiar with this. We don't do late assignments. If you have an emergency, contact me, let me know about it. Don't just not do an assignment. Contact me and we'll work something out as long as we can. Late assignments are subject to a point reduction. I don't know, I haven't gotten any information that anybody in this course requires the reasonable accommodation. If that's so, please be aware that it's your responsibility to get that to me. It's not something that I get or that I'm able to track down. So honesty and plagiarism, your assignments do go through a check for plagiarism. So one of the things that you want to watch with that is if you're using citations from text or that kind of thing, don't string them one right after the other, because the program is going to pick those up and they're likely to red flag it. And it's not really that you're plagiarizing. It's just that what it's appearing to the program is that all you've done is cut and paste from resources. We have an awesome IT group. They will work with you. They will, if you're having struggles, if you're having troubles with anything, they'll work with you till they get it figured out. So if you're having any IT issues or just something that you don't know how to do, and you want to learn to do it, contact them because they will respond and they are amazing, amazingly helpful. All right. That's kind of my spiel about the syllabus. You have my phone number. You have my email, so you can text or email me. If you email or if you text me, identify yourself, because I have a section of my phone that anything that is not in my contacts goes into that unknown section, and I check it. But the reason for that is because I work with borderline clients. And so that's one of the protections that is in place for me, and for them. It's for their sake as well. But you are welcome to text me, call me, shoot an email. I do check emails every day. Sometimes twice a day, sometimes it's only once a day, but I do check every day. And if you find out there's something that you want to meet one-on-one on and get a little more feedback or get a little bit more information on, or just chat about, let me know that and we'll set up a time. I see clients on Mondays and Thursdays. So those are long days for me. I start early in the morning and I finish up just in time to grab something to eat and come meet with you guys. So I'm a little bit slower on Mondays and Thursdays to respond to texts and that kind of thing, but I will get back to you. And also remember, if you're on the West Coast, there's a 3-hour time difference. So 9 o'clock to you is midnight to me. So, all right. We're coming up pretty close on time here. I don't know that we're going to get to do the breakout groups, so we may just do this as kind of a general discussion. Coming back.
Mary, I have a quick question.
Absolutely.
On the textbook, I prefer to do my textbooks electronically. And it looks like for this one, electronically, it's primarily available in the first edition. You see that being a big deal if like I get the first edition? Are there assignments based on the textbook or anything like that?
I think there are some case studies based on the textbook, Stephen, but I think we could work that out. There are some significant changes in the second edition from the first edition, but I think we can kind of walk through those. If you want to get an e-text, I think that would be fine.
And Stephen, I noticed on this one, like I got a code, and so I have the actual textbook and it gave me the e-version as well. So if we need to help him, you know, if he has the old version, it has the most current one. Like I logged in and got it. So whatever we need to do,
you were
we can
able
help.
to get it. Okay,
Mhm.
great.
I got the first edition also, Scott, Stephen.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
I
one of
did
my
too.
questions. Is it
They
gonna
do?
work?
Okay. Well, we'll just kind of like, one thing I do know is you're supposed to read chapter 2 this week. Chapter 2, the chapter 2 that you are supposed to read didn't exist in the first edition. It's only in the second edition. It's culturally sensitive.
So will that affect the quiz that we have to take? Is there something
It
in
may affect the quiz. Yeah, because there will be questions on the quiz.
I have the newer edition. Worse, I'm trying to figure out how I could like share those pages with you, but
Yeah. Well, let's brainstorm that or think about that. And if there is a way to do that, let's for sure do that.
I mean, if
Pearson
they
will-
already have it, I can give my login. I know for sure, Stephen, he's in my cohort. I mean, Peggy too, but like maybe they can log in for this one thing and be able
There
to
you
have
go.
access to it.
Yeah.
I'll look at that, you guys,
Yeah,
and
at
then
least
forward
be
that
able
to
to
you.
read that chapter 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do
And I noticed one of the things that I noticed in looking over, because when I saw that, okay, they wanted the different version, is that one of the assignments made references to certain pages. And when I looked at it, it was not
The
there.
pages were not the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, oh, I may be in trouble here.
Yeah. Well, and the problem with that is I can't help you a whole lot because my version is the version 2, and that's been all I've taught out of.
Uh-huh.
So it's been out for a while. I'm not real sure why they're still, unless maybe they ran out of them, or they didn't. Maybe it's a printing issue with COVID has messed up a lot of stuff, and access to textbooks has been one of the things that has been impacted. So the problem with that is I can't go back and reference what pages you were supposed to be on. I will try to find them, but I don't have a version 1, an edition 1, to go back and say, okay, these pages correlate with these pages in edition 1. So I'm
Right.
sorry.
Right. Well, it said what we were looking at. At the moment, I didn't have time to really look and see where
Okay.
that might be located, but I can't remember what it was, but I know, okay, they're looking for this and this, and this is definitely not there.
Yeah. Well, keep a dialogue going, and as you find things like that, let me know, and then I will try to,
Right.
say, okay, if this is what it is in edition 2, the second edition, and then maybe you'll be able to look. Sometimes comparing the table of contents helps with some of those things when you start looking at topics. So we'll get everybody through it. we'll work it out. DSM-5, I guess, has been back ordered on Amazon. Not a surprise. For those of you who do like to use electronic, you can at the APA website, you can purchase an iPad or iPod version or iPhone version of the DSM-5. I have it downloaded on my iPad. I have it downloaded on my iPhone. And I still have a hard copy of it, but to be on the go or to need to look up something quickly in the office, I will pull up my electronic version and scan that. There you go. There you go. It's going to become your partner as particularly as we're doing diagnosis. Other questions that you guys have?
Not to do with this, but I think I was chasing down my earbuds when you said where you were from. Could you repeat?
I am from just north of Indianapolis in what used to be a little town, but is no more, called Carmel.
Okay, I think I read that.
Yeah, I said on the West Coast, it's Carmel. Out here, it's Carmel.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
You
mentioned
prefer
that
to-
there's a special, was it a CBT special, but for training?
In PETSI, it's DBT,
DBT.
dialectical.
Do you have information that you can share with us?
I will look that website up and I will send it to you. How's
Okay,
that?
and along those lines, some of the paper that I did for the theories class struck my interest was Sellers, who does a family system therapy, and he does regular things every Wednesday for practitioners. And I've not joined in on it because I'm not a practitioner, and also offers classes.
Well, a lot of times though, those resources will also allow students to participate.
Okay.
So you could check it out and
Yeah, I
see.
just thought if somebody was interested in something like that, because
Yeah.
it looks like he has
Yeah,
some
there are a number of resources like that that are available
Okay.
that you can take advantage of. So, other thoughts, questions?
I was just going to ask, do you prefer to go by Dr. Adams, Mary, Miss Adams? Do you have any
Okay.
preference?
I don't claim a doctoral title. I know
Okay.
they give it to me on Concordia gives it to me. I do not have an earned doctorate, so professor is fine, or Mary is fine, whatever you're comfortable with along those lines. But I don't claim a doctoral program, as Matthew has said. That's long, hard work. And it's just not been something that I've been able to fit into I've been able to do everything that I want to do without a doctorate. And so we just haven't been able to justify the expense and the time commitment to do a doctorate. I do everything that I want to do. But I don't discourage people from pursuing doctorate at all. There are some good advantages to doctorates. I wanted to spend most of my time counseling. I'm not a fan. I will use assessments, but I'm not a fan of administering assessments and giving feedback to assessments. I turn that over to my PhD friends. Because they're trained in that. That's what they're good at. It's what they do all the time. And I prefer to stay in my areas of expertise and do those well. So professor or Mary, it's fine. As Gunny says, I'll answer to almost anything. In a store, hear somebody holler "mom" and everybody turns around. Yeah, it's kind of that sort of thing. So, all right. Anything else? And you are always welcome to ask me anything. If I'm not comfortable answering it, I will say so.
What does assessment mean? What is that role?
Assessment.
You said PhDs do assessment, and you
they do.
What's involved in that?
Administering.
I can take this one, Professor.
Go.
So when you get the doctoral degree in clinical psych, part of the testing or part of the program teaches you how to administer and interpret psychometric measures.
Thank you. I could think of that word.
Which is like, so the MMPI is one, that's a personality assessment. There are a lot of personality assessments. The Stanford Binet is a cognitive assessment, which is a fancy word for IQ test. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. Everybody knows about the Rorschach, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, legally to administer, well, I guess anyone can administer them if they're trained as a psychometrician, which I've never understood, because then all that data goes to the clinical psychologist and they interpret it. But technically you're supposed to have a doctoral degree to have anything to do with those tests. So when the professor says she refers out, she's just saying, okay, I want an MMPI on you, go see this guy, and then give him permission to share information with me, and then we
With
can
me.
use it in therapy,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for, say, suicidality risk assessment, you wouldn't be using a
I'm gonna
survey?
do that myself.
No? Okay.
I'm gonna, and that's always, you know, get this anchored in your brain. The first thing that we're always looking for, and at every session, we are assessing for suicidality. Every single time. Now, we may not be bluntly asking the questions unless we're seeing factors that say, all right, I need to push in on this. In which case we ask direct questions, pointed direct questions. But every single time you meet with somebody, you are assessing for suicidality. Where are they? What are the risk factors here? What are they saying? What are they not saying? But yes, also then, and we're going to talk about some of these, the more formalized suicide assessment, that if you do a suicide assessment on a client, you want to have something like this in your progress note that documents exactly what you did. And there are a number of suicide assessments that are valid that you are able to use. Take a look too in your DSM-5. There are, they added so many assessments that now they're not along the line of the psychometric assessments that Matthew is talking about. Those are different. And we can talk about that as we get into them, how those are different, because you're going to be using some of the suicide assessment tools. You're going to be looking at some of the suicide assessment tools. The other thing that I typically will refer out for, and right now I'm only seeing adults, I'm not seeing children or adolescents. I take that back, I'm seeing one adolescent. Is for attention deficit or anything on the spectrum. I'm going to refer that over to a child psychologist to do any of that assessment. I'm just not trained to do it, and there are pieces of it that legally I can't do. But as Matthew says, I can ask the client to sign a release for me to get information. Or many times when I was working with children and adolescents, I would actually go and attend the session with the parents and hear the feedback firsthand. We had a really awesome man here in the city. He has now retired, but he would audio tape the feedback that he was giving to patients and to parents so that they could listen to it over and over again. Because it's hard to take everything in. And so he would make an audio tape of the feedback and give it to them so that they had the opportunity to review it again and again. I don't know of anybody else that does that, although a client can take an audio tape into a feedback session with them if they choose to do so. But that was a really helpful tool. Okay, does that help kind of clarify, Scott, that there's different levels of assessment? And those some of those tests require significant training to be qualified to use them. Other thoughts? We're kind of out of time here, but last minute thoughts. All right. Let me know if you have questions or if we need to chat about anything. Thank you for your engagement tonight, for jumping in, and I am really looking forward to continuing to meet with you guys and to read your postings and to interact with you. And I hope that you will take some time next Monday or sometime over the weekend to just do something fun and relaxing. Do some self-care. All right. All right. Let me pray for us as we go to sleep, and then we'll call this done. Father, thank you so much for your presence here with us and for being our guide through all of these steps and things that we have to learn. My prayer is that each person through this 7 weeks will take exactly what you brought them here to take, and that may be so different, I know, for each of them. But you are the author of our path, and so you show them what is important for them to take away, for the work that you're equipping them to do. I thank you for each and every one of them. I ask your protection over them and over their families, especially during these times which seem so uncertain. You are our certainty. You're our rock, and we just cling to you sometimes. So give us a good night's sleep and rest and restore our bodies. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Mary.